Hi, I'm Adrian.
And I'm Brett.
And you're listening to
Foxx on the Wire.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
We'll do another take.
You're listening to Foxx on the Wire.
Yeah.
So many memories come flooding back.
Yeah, that's what I want to sort of get your take on as well, and here he is again.
You back, mate?
Oh man, it's one of those days. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
All right.
What happened?
So, Adrian, where did you sit at the concert? Where were you?
Jeez, I was right in the middle. So there was like I guess the oval, the track was divided in half by the barrier, and I was just on the bad side of the half where I was.
Were you in front of the sound tower or the behind it?
Oh, in front. Luckily, I was in front, but
oh wow, yeah, nice.
So the sound tower wasn't blocking me.
Nah, good. It was almost falling on you at one stage in the wind.
I'm the guy. Yeah, and then the classic. There's always someone who wants to climb it. It gets told off. Whereabouts were you at, man? Where were you in the ski?
I was on the side of the tower, up on the side of the hill. So I was on the half-forward flank, if you're talking football terms.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, I was on fourth and 10 on the 25-yard line, if you're talking gridiron.
So, is it true that was it one of the speaker towers like caught fire or something like that? Did that happen?
I don't know.
I heard that in one of the.
No, but it almost
maybe that was
in the wind. Yeah.
Not sure. I didn't hear anything about that. No, but it might have. Who knows?
That was because they played a Sydney show as well, Eastern Creek, I think it was, and then came down to Melbourne. So maybe it was that. So seeing as though we're dove headfirst straight into this conversation, I want to welcome you guys to episode number 80 of Foxx on the Wire. It's a very special episode today, and I think this is the first threesome that I've had on this podcast. So
that's awesome, yeah.
It's a privilege to be able to do it with you two. So we've got Adrian Akkerman from Incubator Studios. Adrian, I think you were on you were one of the first 10 episodes that I did, so maybe like number 6 or something like that.
All right.
I think you were one of my first test subjects, I think, and we've also got Brett Franke, who has also returned to the show. Brett, I think you were sort of in the early days too, around episode 20 odd or somewhere around there. So yeah, welcome back to the show, guys. It's a pleasure to have you back on, and we're here tonight to talk about a special event in Australian history and in Guns N' Roses and rock and roll history. It's been 30 years, 1st of Feb on 1993, where we saw thousands of, I think it was maybe upwards of 50, 60, 70,000 fans trek to Calder Park, just on the outskirts of Melbourne, in the blistering heat for one of the biggest rock and roll bands in the world, Guns N' Roses. And they were joined by Pearls and Swine, Rose Tattoo, and Skid Row as support acts. So this was part of the Gunners' gigantic Use Your Illusion tour, which ran from January 20, 1991 to July 17th, 1993, which was about 194 shows. So just massive. So yeah, this show sort of goes down in history, I think. Obviously, I wasn't there. I was only about 10 at the time. But you were both there, not together. But so I wanted to get you guys on to, I guess, share your personal stories from that show, because there was obviously a lot of things that went on that day, and the weather was a big cause of all that, blistering heat and then thunderstorms, dust storms, no public transport for people to get home, expensive water, you name it.
Yeah.
And so, Brett, let's start with...
Oh yeah, go on. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Brett, let's start with you. Sorry, we've got a bit of a delay on the old Zoom here. What were you saying, Adrian?
I was just going to say, I remember it was like a 45-minute delay to do anything, whether it was go to the toilet or go get a drink or some food. I think the friends I was with, they just, disappear for 45 minutes and you're like, oh, okay, you're back, and anyway, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, well, I think I was sort of watching some old news reports, which is pretty funny watching those back 30 years later. You see the types of cars that the police are driving and the type of ambulances and that sort of thing. Is pretty funny. But yeah, I think some people didn't even make it into the show, or they walked away because of the heat or the line to get in or whatever it might have been. Some bloke on there, I think he lined up and ended up turning around. He said it's a waste of $50 and all this sort of stuff. So I bet he's regretting it now, because it became quite
iconic.
Iconic. Yeah. So yeah, let's start with you, Brett. Tell us about what you remember from that day and from that concert.
2 hours I've got, yeah?
Yeah. Go for it. Podcasts are endless, mate, so go for it.
All right, I've been to a lot of concerts. Not too many, but I've been to my fair share. The one that sticks with me is this one. It was something special on every level, on all levels. To start off with, I wanted to go and I couldn't get tickets, and then I gave up hope. And then I got a phone call one day from a friend of mine who was a friend of a bloke that I used to live with in a share house. And he said, "Hey, Frankie, you like Gunners?" And I went, "Oh, yeah." And he said, "Righty, I've got a ticket if you want it." And I said, "Yep, I'm in." So I went with him and one other of my friends that I did know. So 2 friends that I knew that I went with. And then there was another 6 or something. So we all crammed into this car and we drove out from Melbourne down the Calder Freeway and we got to this paddock. And parked. All good. Nothing wrong about that. Nothing abnormal. And then it was a stinking hot. Do you know the date of the concert, Craig? Can you remember?
1st of Feb.
So it's about this time of year.
Yeah.
And it was a stinking hot day. I reckon it was every bit of 36 degrees.
Much like today, funnily enough.
Much like today. And I'm just looking outside at the moment and the weather's turning. So, yeah. So we got told, you make your way to the gate, and we had our bags. I didn't have a bag, but everyone had bags full of, whatever they could fit in there, illegal or not. And then we got so close to the gate, and the bloke on a megaphone come out and said, "Right, everybody, stop what you're doing, sit down. You're not going anywhere, you're not moving." So they had a backlog, basically. And we were told to sit in the paddock and actually squat in 36-degree heat. No shade, hot wind. Guns N' Roses are playing. They hadn't started yet. And this is probably, I can't remember the times. This is probably about midday, 1 o'clock afternoon. So eventually, after a little while, they told us to stand up and move forward. And we moved forward about 50 metres, and they told us to stop and drop again. So I thought, all right, this is what a cow feels like in a paddock. Except all the grass was dry. There was nothing to munch on. Some people had grass in their bags, but unless you were friendly with them, you wouldn't be able to roll that one yet. But when you were getting through the gates, they were actually confiscating drinks and anything they could find. They were taking it off you. So you weren't allowed to take water, Coke, Fanta, Pepsi, anything into the venue. And the idea was, I guess they didn't want people topping up on, whatever they were topping up on, and they just wanted to control everything, So eventually we got in, and it was, I think from memory, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just go wherever you wanted to.
Yeah. I just remember the one section.
Yeah. So we looked at the front of the stage, and that was all chockers. And we thought, well, it's too bloody hot to go down there and sniff those armpits, so we'll just go up on the side so Calder Park is like a raceway, so we're up on the side bank, like on a batter, and we're on the side looking down onto the stage. A great view from where we were. I just remember the first band, you mentioned it before, Craig.
Pearls and Swine.
I'm glad you said that, because today I was talking to Beck, my wife, about this, and I said I'm doing this tonight with Acoustic Foxx and Adrian, and I can't remember the first band, but I remember them being from Sydney, and they were good, but they got booed off stage.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I thought, oh, come on, Melbourne, you can't do that. Do you remember that, Adrian? They booed them off the stage.
No, I think I must have missed them. I just remember Rose Tattoo, Skid Row, and Gunners. So that's pretty off.
That probably happens a lot.
They got booed so much that the lead singer come forward and just said, well, get fucked, Melbourne, and just walked off. But I think it was the end of their set.
Yeah.
And people knew that, and they thought they'd chuck in some billing, you know.
See, the crowd should be happy that a big international act like that brought some local bands onto the stage. I know there's Rose Tattoo, but that happened at, sorry not to take it off track too much, but I saw Metallica, I don't know, 2006 or somewhere around there, and the Datsuns, I think, opened up for them, who I wasn't a fan of, but they were a local
thing.
Oh, they New Zealand, right? Okay, yeah, they got pretty much booed off from what I remember too. So it's a pretty tough act to support a big band that people come and see, I think, no matter who you are. So.
It is, isn't it? It's probably every opening act's worst fear, you know, getting booed off, but it happens, and it still happens today, I reckon.
Yep.
But anyway, they were booed off, and I felt a bit sorry for them, actually. I thought they did a pretty good job. So Pearls and Swine, if you ever get hold of this, well done, fellas. I thought you were great.
Are they still playing? Are they still a thing?
I don't know. I didn't even know their name until you mentioned it half an hour ago. So
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, check them out. But they did a really good job. But they were booed off stage in true fashion.
Yeah.
And then Rose Tattoo come on. So everyone knows Rose Tattoo. They're just like one of those old stubby holders you keep in the kitchen. I like this one. And they were great. They were comfortable. You knew their songs. They were good to listen to. Angry Anderson is a legend. And they're all good musos, and they've done their time over and over and over again. So Melbourne fell in love with them. Well, Melbourne were in love with them, and they fell in love with them again.
Yeah, I think you're so right there. Again, it's the operative word there. Like, it was almost like a revival. It reminded people, not that
exactly,
they forgot,
it was a revival,
but it was,
yeah.
You know, it's kind of, they're there, but it was like, they kind of got a boost again. You know, it's like, these guys rock. They're good.
And I think you're right, Adrian. They had been on hiatus for a very long time. And this,
Guns N' Roses covered one of their songs on.
They did, and that's why they got the gig, I think.
Nice Boys, I think. Nice Boys. Don't play rock and roll. Yeah.
They did very early on. I think Gunners covered one of their songs, and Angry and Axl become mates.
Yeah.
So to speak, and I think that's why they got the gig.
Mm.
So they were fantastic. But the band I went to see, as much as I love the Gunners, was Skid Row.
Yeah.
I was playing in a band in Melbourne at the time, and we did a lot of Skid Row covers. Original band, but we did a lot of Skid Row covers, you know, if that makes sense. So I was a big fan of Skid Row, and I really wanted to see them. And out of all the bands on the day, I think they were the most disappointing.
No.
Sorry, Sebastian and co, but they were too busy jumping around and missing chords and just a bunch of yahoos. But they were still good.
Mm.
And they come on and played, and then I just remember being there. It's really hot, but you're having a good time. And you would have to. I can't remember drinking beers that day. I think I had a few. But I think everyone was drinking water. I think for every beer you had about 2 or 3 cups of water. Prices were crazy back then. I can't even remember the price, but you get a little white cup of water, and it was so hot that people you in your group that you didn't really know would disappear, like Adrian said before, and come back with 5 cups of water, and they would hand them out to people, and then they'd drink them, and then if you looked at them, they would look at you and go, "Oh, okay, here's a cup of water." They would share it with you. It was humanity at its finest. In the darkest hour, 36 degrees. We've been in this hot sun with no fucking shade. Let's say you'll let that out. And people were sharing water with you. This is back in the day before COVID and everything. So then, after the heat and everything of about 4 or 5 hours, it started to get about this time of night, but it was actually about 6 o'clock. There was a big lull. There was nothing going on. And we saw this helicopter coming out from Melbourne. Everyone could see it. Just a lone helicopter.
Yeah.
It flew out and it come to the back of the stage and landed in the paddock behind the stage. And everyone said, "Oh, that's Guns N' Roses. It's got to be them. They're coming on. Won't be long now." And everyone got their hopes up, and we're all dying. We've been in the heat, and we're all, delirious. And then the winds started to get really strong. And I just remember the sound tower, which was as high as an 8-story building, scaffolding, which was in the middle of the crowd, and there's people all around it. That started to really wobble, and people were looking at it, and people were worried. Shit. And even the event organisers were worried because they put over the PA system. Everybody stand back from the tower. If it falls, you
run.
Exits, run. And we've just got a word of warning, everybody. And this message went on for about 20 minutes, repetitively, in different formats. Just a word of warning. We've just got word from Ballarat that a big windstorm and a dust storm has come through Ballarat, and it's expected to hit Calder Park in the next 40 minutes. And we're like, great. Dust storm. No rain, because we need rain, We're dying out. Anyway, this big dust storm come through, and everyone just got their T-shirts and ripped them off, and singlets and towels and blankets, and basically lied on the ground where I was on the side of the hill. They hit the side of the hill and waited for this big dust storm to come over it. And it was bloody crazy. It went on for it seemed like about 15, 20 minutes, and you couldn't see and you couldn't breathe. You couldn't see the stage. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, the footage is pretty crazy. Yeah.
So it did happen in Melbourne back in the 80s, in 88 or 85 it was, 84. Big dust storm come over, well documented, newspapers. But this wasn't as bad as that, but it was pretty bloody bad. And so come over. And then after that, everyone's got up and we're all covered in dust now. So we look like, warriors from Africa. And we've got, red lips, but we're all brown. And we're starving. We're dying we want water or beer or something.
Yeah.
And then over the radios, they said, right, now we're going to get rained on. Great. So the temperature went from 36, it plummeted to about 24, and everyone's in shorts and singlets, yeah? And then it plummeted again to about 17 degrees, which is bloody cold when you're down to 36. So now we're shivering, and it started raining on us.
Shit.
So the same towels we used to keep the dust out, we're now got above our heads, trying to stay like a torrential rain. And that lasted probably, 10 minutes tops. But it was water, and it was great. And then everything went still. The wind stopped blowing. The trees stopped moving. Everyone was really quiet. And it was like, what the fuck just happened in the last 45 minutes? And then we knew Guns N' Roses were coming on. But before that, I've got to throw this in because I think it happened before Guns N' Roses coming on. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So because we had the rainstorm, we're on the hill and we could see all these girls walking down, people walking, on the road and traffic in there. But everyone would start wolf whistling, you know. We're like, what's going on? And there'd be girls in white tank tops and white T-shirts. Wet T-shirt comp. Everyone was going off their heads at these girls, and then they'd be like, living it up, going, whoa, you know, and it was fantastic. And then the funny thing was, a bunch of these bloody blokes walked down, muscle blokes, you know, the bodybuilder type, and they got the white T-shirt on, and all the girls started listening to the guys. It's like, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It was just one of those things where it was one of those days where anything was happening, anything could go on. And then eventually it was just like tonight, pink sky, changing weather, total calm before the storm, and something on the side of the stage started to blow up, like as in inflate, like a big giant inflatable monster. And it was waving its arms everywhere. And then we heard the riff to Welcome to the Jungle at full voice. And, I mean, just saying that now, the hair's on the back of my neck.
Yeah.
And Guns N' Roses hit that fucking stage, and they hit it in all their glory. I said to my wife back on the way down to Melbourne today, I said, they were at their peak, in their prime, and they knew it. And they just blew everyone away. Like, they were on song. Fucking beautiful. Dream gig. And Axel, Slash, Duff, Izzy, everyone was just smashing it. And it went for about an hour and a half. And it was just full on. There was no talking. Axel engaged the crowd a couple of times between songs quickly, but it was just bang, bang, bang in your face, hit after hit.
Yeah.
And they had so many hits. So people loved it. And I just remember thinking, wow, you know, 4 hours of being heat bloody drenched, and then a dust storm, then a fucking rainstorm. This makes up for everything. Thank you, Guns N' Roses. And I remember thinking that day, I was a young fella, and I remember thinking, this is fucking something that will be talked about for many years. This will never happen again. A couple of years ago, I was working in Melbourne, and someone said to me, hey, you want to go see Guns N' Roses? And I said, nah, saw them when they were good. But I did get free tickets that night and went and saw them, and they did do a good job. But it was different back then. They were all in their mid-20s, late 20s. They were in their prime. They just kicked ass.
Yeah, well, such a long tour as well. Like, they would have been just dialing it in without even trying. So you said the weather calmed down just before Guns came on the stage. Do you think Axel controlled the weather? Like, do you think he was such a superstar at that stage?
I reckon it was almost. What's the right?
He made
word?
some calls.
He made some calls. Yeah,
he made some calls. Well, he would have called the devil, but God would have said, "Nah, I'm not doing anything with you guys." But the devil might have stepped in. But yeah, it was prophetic the way that within like 15 minutes before they come on, the sky goes a bright red pink. And we've all lived in Melbourne. We live in Melbourne, and we know Melbourne. Yeah. Melbourne's, you know, it can dump whatever it can on you, but after it, you're going to get this nice pink sky, and it's like, oh, good, now we've got summer back. And that's what happened. It just everything went quiet. Guns N' Roses hit the stage within minutes.
And that's out of Melbourne as well, so it's not like in the city. So it's pretty open sky and open fields, especially 30 years ago. It's a bit more populated now.
Yeah, I think Melbourne stretched to St Albans back then. Then it stopped in St Albans, and after that, you had the cow paddocks.
Yeah, so
for those Caroline Springs, no Truganina, no anything.
Yeah. Well, for those listening who aren't from Melbourne and aren't familiar, Calder Park is a raceway. It's like a motor racing circuit, as Brett sort of explained, and it's just on the outskirts of Melbourne, which began in the 50s with a pair of motoring enthusiasts who wanted somewhere to race their FJ Holdens. And I think after this Guns concert, well, I think they wanted to do more concerts, like they mentioned Madonna and potentially Bruce Springsteen and a few others, but it never happened. There was a whole ombudsman report and stuff like that, but I won't get to that just yet. What about you, Adrian? What are your recollections from that historic day and event?
Jeez, well, Brett, you ticked all the boxes there, but you did bring up a few points that I do specifically really remember the water sharing and that people kind of coming together over that sort of that common ground, which was it's still it sticks out. I remember that for sure. And the and also too, like you just hit that they were just in such good form that the dust storm, the heat, you just forgot about it because then all of a sudden you're there at Guns N' Roses, and they were on point, and so all that. The dust and the rain, it's like, yeah, whatever. Okay, now I'm focused on this now. This is great. All right. That's, water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
I do remember like on the bank though, after the show, like leaving and then just the mud sliding, it was full on. You had to pick your path right or you'd slide back down into the, man.
Yeah.
And did you get there early for the support acts, Adrian, or?
Well, yes, and you guys triggered my memory with Pearls and Swine, but I didn't see them, so I must have got there after them because I do remember seeing Rose Tattoo and Skid Row. But so I missed Pearls and Swine. But yeah, from memory though, I think I remember the sound was good. In general, whether they're playing, but just in general, I remember the sound was clear, and I remember hearing the legendary voices. Like angry. Even Sebastian Bach, at that time, his voice was just crazy. I'm not sure, but and then Axl's voice. It's not. Unfortunately, now it's not the best. I mean, but the dude's pretty old, and trying to sing like that could be tricky. I'm giving them out there, but he's not really the same now. But so it was good to see him at that gig.
Yeah. You're right, Adrian. The sound was really good. It was. I've been to a lot of concerts, as I said before, and I think the sound was really good that day, like extra special.
I remember you heard everything. There wasn't like you're kind of straining. It was like it was there and it was good. It wasn't.
It sounded like the album. Everyone sounded like their album. It was really great sound. Yeah.
Well, probably wasn't their first big outdoor arena sort of show. They probably had done it a number of times because they'd been all around the world and played a lot of.
They'd have a great crew working for them.
Yeah, they had a lot of gear. It was like 900 lights and just an amazing amount of. And even when they've been here just recently, they sort of rounded off all the gear that they brought down, and it's just an incredible. You can imagine how much gear Adrian's got in his studio just there, but probably nothing compared to what the Gunners are lugging around for a big show like that. So that big wobbly speaker tower, that didn't end up tumbling over?
Yeah. And you mentioned the wobblies too. I think maybe because of the embankments as well. I don't seem to remember the wind taking the sound too often. Now that I'm trying to remember, like your outdoor gig and the wind goes and then the sound, blow.
I think
maybe
from my memory, Adrian, the wind, all that storm and all that mayhem happened between Skidders and Gunners coming on in that big lull, which is almost about an hour, which is typical of Axl. He never comes on time. He just,
especially back in those days.
Even in those days, he rocks up, and there was something in the media and prior to it that Axl, that helicopter was Axl's helicopter because he travels different than the band.
Yeah, I think they came in two. They came in two separate ones, and I think Axl came in Elliot. The Carlton or the old Carlton president?
Oh, John Elliott.
I think he came in his helicopter from what I read on his own, separate to the band.
Yeah, okay. So. It's amazing he made it out to Calder Park in that helicopter because that helicopter is fueled on bloody Vic Bitter beer.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Or the empty cans, maybe.
Yeah, the empty cans. But I mean, even back then, I think the band was sort of on tenterhooks with each other, and they sort of, as you do, how many dates, Craig, did you say before?
194, but I think there was meant to be, there was a few cancelled, so it should have been over 200, but, you know.
194 dates and 0 sleep. You're going to be niggly with your bandmates, so understandable.
Yeah.
But I just, Adrian, that wind and everything, I remember after Skidders finished, Skid Row, then all that shit happened and the dust storm and the rain, and we had to wait. It seemed like eternity. It was probably an hour and a half, maybe an hour, I don't know.
It was a good wait now that I remember. It was like too long, you know, in between bands, you know. Too long.
But you weren't going to go home, were you?
No, hell
no. This far, we've got to watch him.
Yeah, you
not that I... Yeah.
You couldn't get home, apparently, so...
No, you couldn't get home.
That's right. I was saying you're lucky you drove a car, or maybe, I don't know what the traffic was like, but I got dropped off with some friends, and then we were going to, I don't know what we were thinking. We thought cab or taxi, and no, there was none.
Yeah.
So there was, you know, it was like 60-odd thousand people, and no taxis, no shuttle buses. We got out just thinking, oh, well, what do we do now? And I think we walked 20 minutes to the next BP and managed to get a cab there somehow. Yeah,
someone was saying, don't know if it was one of the organisers or someone said, you know, after the gig, because there was no public transport, everyone was walking down the freeway and it looked like a scene from The Walking Dead or something like that. And especially back, because it wasn't populated out that way 30 years ago too much. Now it probably wouldn't be such a bad thing because there's newer suburbs and that sort of thing, but there wouldn't have been much back then. And they were sort of saying about the water, how they were overcharging, and I think some people were drinking like sewage water, and Mr. Whippy came up in the Ombudsman report because I think they had water, but they started really overcharging.
I remember Mr. Whippy. There was a Mr. Whippy band. I do remember that.
Yeah, so for those listening from overseas, Mr. Whippy was basically like an ice cream truck, I guess.
Yeah.
Was that it? Yeah?
The ice cream truck.
So he would have made a killing that day.
He would have.
Yeah. And what about you, Adrian? Like, how did you, being a fair hair person like myself, how did you go out in the extreme weather that day? Did you sort of...
Jeez, I don't even think I had a hat, man. I was crazy.
Yeah.
I would have had sunblock because, yes. It's funny. I don't think I got sunburned, but normally sunblock gives me about like 10 minutes in the sun, and then that's it, you know. But so I'm not sure. I can't remember how that one went down.
And who did you go with that day? Did you go with friends or?
Yeah, just a couple friends. I know there was 3 of us. My memory's terrible, man. I only remember the one other guy I was with. I can't remember who else was there, and full on. Yeah. I think even the toilets, I think I remember, not that I did it, I didn't do it. There was people who just like stuff that I'm not waiting in a queue, and they're just peeing in the field, you know, just making sure no one, and you're just like, great, you know, add to the dust, mud, whatever stage it was. It's not, you know, not good.
Yeah.
Actually, Adrian, I remember you before you said the toilet, and I thought, toilet? I don't remember going to the toilet. But I don't remember peeing on the side of the bank. So I think I had about 3 or 4 beers that day, which was only not by choice, but couldn't get to the bloody beer truck, couldn't be bothered, and drinking water. And I think he was sweating it out of you, so you didn't need to pee. I don't know. I don't remember peeing that day, but I remember looking at the toilets going, no way. It was especially after that rainstorm, they were all just muddy and people were losing their thongs trying to get to them, and it was like, not for me.
Well, it'd be interesting to know how many festivals had actually been before then, because it was poorly organized on almost every front. You think with that many people, there should be 5 Mr. Whippy vans, not 1.
Yeah.
No, and so I'd actually would be interesting to know how many big festivals were up until that point.
Yeah, okay.
You know, it's not knowing the logistics.
Well, because there was a Sunbury one back in the 70s, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think too many big concerts in Australia like that. I think this is probably the first big outdoor concert Australia had for a long time since Sunbury.
Yeah.
When did the big day outs start? They were 92.
The big day outs, the first big day out. I went to the first one in 95.
Was it early 90s?
I think they started back in 93 or something.
Because didn't Nirvana play? So I think that was 92. I don't know if that was
right.
Just when they broke Nirvana, I think, because they were, I think they were booked and then they exploded, so that would have been, early 92 maybe, yeah.
So Guns N' Roses, what year are we talking again?
early 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
Early 90s, all right.
But like the Big Day Out's, they're situated.
Oh, Big Day Out, yeah.
Yeah, they're more in
Melbourne.
I guess Metro Melbourne, whereas Calder Park was quite on the outskirts, so I think that was a big part of the problem. But there was an ombudsman report into what was arguably the worst concert ever staged in Australia. There was a damning assessment of about 100 pages,
wow.
But it wasn't what happened on stage, it was what happened off it. So, the manager of Guns N' Roses sort of said that concert never really stood a chance of succeeding. But unlike other concerts that Gunners have played, it wasn't really their fault. There wasn't a riot that Axl inspired or anything like that. It was the management off the stage. And Mr. Whippy did feature in the Ombudsman report, selling water and at an exorbitant price.
Well, no offense to Mr. Ombudsman, but he probably listens to he probably listens to music that we don't listen to.
Neil Diamond or something like that.
No, I was thinking of who are these people today that are making music that are just make me throw in a bucket.
Where can we start?
Yeah, where can we start? So three chord people, those people, pop artists. But anyway, as terrible as it was, I think we did register as a consumer and a spectator. We did say this is bloody bullshit, but we, true Aussie fashion, we pressed on, and at the end of the day, you're there to see the Guns N' Roses. And as I said before, when everything stopped and the storm had cleared and everything was gone, that opening riff, Guns N' Roses hit the stage, all is forgiven. And I just remember walking away from that gig, that concert, just with a big smile on my face, thinking that was
like being in the Paradise City video clip or something. Yeah.
I love that video. It's such a good video.
It's funny you mentioned with like the manager was saying it wouldn't have much success, that particular gig, because it's not a lot of people know that it's almost like a tender process. Gunners would say, who's going to book the tour for Australia? And someone would say, I'll do it and I'll give you X amount. So it's like, obviously they have things in place to say, get rid of the brown M&Ms from the rider and make sure the lighting doesn't fall on our head. But a lot of the times they don't get to see what actually the venues are. It could be not completely correct, but it's the they book the tour and they get paid for their tour and they just show up to the gigs.
Yeah. It's like playing a gig at the Corner Hotel in Richmond. You don't know what you're going to get till you get there.
Yeah.
So, Adrian, you were saying about the sound being an outdoor venue, because I've been to the Maya Music Bowl, seen a few gigs there, and the sound is just, all over the place, and it really turns me off going to any gigs there anymore. So the sound was pretty solid that day, maybe depending where you were sitting, but even with all the weather and everything, it was pretty good. Yeah,
from memory, I remember as Brett said, when there was the big dust storm, that was different. But I remember listening and thinking it was all. I don't remember that being a big issue, which is great, because as you just said, it sucks. You're getting into the groove of the song and then it disappears for 5 seconds, and it's like, hey, you turned down the volume, quick, turn it back up. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's like it's really off-putting. Actually, I think I saw Soundgarden, and I'm pretty sure that was the gig where it was a bit windy and the sound was sort of shifting all over the place, and kind of ruined it. It was still
one. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
maybe
Brett,
the Calder Bankments, maybe they helped. I'm not sure. as far as blocking the wind from taking it away. You know, we were in the big pit, so to speak.
Yeah. So how did they set up the Calder Park thing? Like, I've seen footage. So you got it's basically a outer embankment, and then it goes down into
under a flat. Yeah.
So where did Guns?
So they set up the stage up one end of the field,
right,
and then back off that, of course, they would have the sound tower.
Yep.
And that was all on the flat, and it was filled. And then around the embankments, the crowd gathered as well. So Adrian was right. It was like a natural amphitheatre.
Yep.
I mean, the Maori Music Bowl is a natural amphitheatre, but I went to that Soundgarden gig as well. Crazy. The sound was shit.
Even what's that other venue? Amy Park, I think. I saw Foo Fighters there, and that was. I remember thinking the sound was pretty ordinary there too. But then I saw, but then I saw Bruce Springsteen and Paul McCartney as well on two separate occasions, and they were fine. So I don't know. Who knows? It's
maybe they'll hand out Bluetooth earbuds at some of these gigs, these big stadium gigs, and get a direct feed from the desk, man.
That'd be nice, yeah. I mean, it's
copyright that, Adrian.
It's part of the experience, I guess. So it's outdoor, so it is what it is. But what about you, Brett? Did you go to? So Guns came back here in 2016 or 17.
Yeah, that's the one I went to.
And then they were here just very recently. Did you? So you went in 16 or 17, whenever it was?
16, 17. I was working for a company in Melbourne, and one of the blokes said, "You like Gunners?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You want to go?" I said, "No, I saw them when they were good."
Yeah.
And then anyway, no one wanted to go, and he said, "Hey, I've got these tickets." And I said, "Yeah, okay, we'll just go for a laugh."
Mm.
So we went, and I was surprised. They got through the gig pretty well. I thought they were pretty good.
I think so.
Not as good as back when we saw them, when they were in their prime, but given their age and how many times they've been around the block, they were fantastic still. But nothing beats that concert at Calder Park. That was it's like watching Mike Tyson fight tomorrow. You go see him, but you know he's not as good as he was when he was 24 years old.
What about you, Adrian? Have you seen him in the last two tours since they've sort of reunited with Slash and Duff?
No, I haven't. But I saw him before the Calder Park when they played at the Entertainment Center at the Glass House.
Damn.
I know there must have only been a couple thousand people there. It was and that was full on. It was a different sort of. They made that place feel like it was a small bar, the way you just felt like you're sitting there, up close. And it was just ferocious.
I've got a bit of a funny story about that one.
Did you see that gig too?
No, I missed it. I was in tears because I missed it. And some friends.
Well, it was pretty quick from memory. It just came out of the blue, and it was like, here they're playing, and like sold out, and that was it, done. And
couldn't get tickets. So some friends of mine were having a party, and it was because we missed that concert that we were going to this party. And I was, as I said before, I was playing in a band at the stage, and we're all young, and we had really long hair. So what we did, we hired a limo, and the party was in South Melbourne, and we actually got the limo driver to drive past the venue, the entertainment centre, and we got him to drive up onto the Esplanade. And as soon as we did that, the crowd went crazy and they started rushing the limo. And we wound the window down. I've got half a dozen other guys that will testify to this. We wound the window down that much and put our hands out. And people were crying and yelling, and they thought it was going crazy.
That's funny.
And that's when I thought, I've got to stick at this music career. I love this sort of stuff.
Yeah. So that would have been 89 or 90, I think, Adrian?
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm not sure the exact the date. Well, yeah, it was the Guns. They didn't blow up till
I think it was 89.
Was it
yeah.
89? Was it? Okay, yeah.
Guns N' Roses had a decent following in Melbourne, but not massive. So it was a bit of an obscure gig. Unless you're really into them, you wouldn't be going. But having said that, they sold out the entertainment centre, so you know.
What's the capacity for that? Is that like 10,000 or something? The entertainment centre?
I thought it was.
I'm not sure. It's a bit smaller than that. Yeah,
maybe less.
Yeah, it's surprising. I think it's only about 4,500.
Yeah, right. Oh, that would have been a show to see, Adrian. They would have been even hotter then, I reckon. Like, really intense. I would have thought. Yeah,
it was great. Dude. As general admission, I was out the back. I didn't get up the front, but it was really good. I remember the cool thing is as Axl deliberately said, well, we're not going to do an encore, guys. So, we're just going to use that time to play an extra couple songs. And it was that's cool. That's it.
And
good.
Izzy would have been still in the band then, and maybe even Steven.
Yeah, and Steven Adler, yeah.
Yeah,
it was the original lineup.
The original lineup.
Oh, yeah, Izzy didn't play at Calder Park, did he?
Nah, he was gone by then. So
gone by then, that's right. They bought
Gilby.
Him. Yeah.
Gilby Clark. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So Calder Park was their second time to Australia.
Yeah.
There you go. And that was a totally different show, the 93 show, like the Illusion. So it would have been just the five guys when you saw them first time, Adrian, and then all of a sudden they've got backup singers and this massive stage show.
Yeah. Best bar band in the world, man, at the time.
They'd sort of grown from when Adrian saw them that first time.
Oh, massively.
Probably from a club band, an LA club band, to an international stadium band, yeah.
And it was only a matter of a couple of years.
The full production, yeah. I mean, who knew Axl could play piano?
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing on the first album. Although some of those songs that ended up on Illusion, they'd written in the Appetite era, like maybe November Rain. That was a pretty early song.
November Rain, yeah. You could get some of those songs on. There was some bootlegs floating around that had like versions of November Rain, like years back.
Yeah,
and there's a couple others that were floating around. Like I remember a buddy of mine had them. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is they weren't the best recordings, but yeah, it was. So there were songs they had hanging around for a bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the Use Your Illusion? Wasn't that their cleaning out the back catalog thing? I'm kind of stretching my memory. How many new tracks were on there?
No, they hadn't recorded anything for a while, and then they did bring the old songs in. They had Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. But do you remember the Spaghetti Incident?
Yeah.
And that was just an album. Was that before Illusion? And that was just a cover album?
No, that was after. That was 93 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, it was after. Even though I think, they played Attitude, which I think was a Misfits song. They were playing that in the Illusion tour with Duff singing.
Yeah.
Don't know if they were playing any others live, but yeah, that was after. I actually didn't mind that album at the time.
I thought it was good, yeah.
Coming off Illusion, I don't know if it was the best idea when you think about it in that sense, but anything G&R back then. Cover. Yeah.
Great covers of like Gunners, Van Halen.
Yeah.
Who's the other great cover band? Metallica do really good covers too.
Yes. Yeah, they do. Turn the Page, Whiskey in the Jar. Yeah, they do. They do good covers. I agree. But so you didn't make it to the recent shows, Adrian, the reunion tours?
No, unfortunately, I think Axl's voice is just not there, and it's. I guess you could see. I saw the Slash and Miles Kennedy doing some Gunner songs, and he was really doing them justice there. I think it's just maybe he's an older guy, and he's singing those songs. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt with your voice, being able to do that. Some guys are still doing it, but yeah. So no, I didn't get a chance. I didn't go and see him for that reason alone. I mean, I'm still a big Gunners fan, but just that thought, unless I was right up front, then there's the whole aspect of getting home, like showing my age now, when that's a consideration for a rock concert. How am I going to get home?
Especially after the Calder Park incident.
Yeah, where you just didn't even care, you know. Then like how times change. But,
yeah, I went in. Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, so you went, did you? Yeah.
I went in. I think it was 2007. I think it was February 2017 for memory. The reunion one. Yeah. So I went to that, and that was great. I was really pumped about it, and I think Wolf Mother opened. They didn't sound great, I didn't think, but you know, Aussie band. So what's his name? Andrew Stockdale had played on Slash's solo album, so it made sense. So that was cool. And yeah, Gunners, I thought smashed it, and then Angus Young came out, I think towards the end, and did a couple of songs.
That was good
because that's when Axl had been singing with AC/DC, which I think he did a fucking great job. To be honest, I thought he sounded.
Well, Axl's still got that voice, but he's got that really high register, but he can't sing that low register very well anymore.
Well, I don't know what happened, because did you see when he sang with AC/DC, Adrian?
Yeah,
I did, and I didn't mind it too much, actually.
Like, had a lot of venom.
Yeah, good.
But now with Guns, like I don't know. I agree with you, Adrian. Like I didn't go this time around. Partly because of his voice. I understand that, you know, he's older, and another thing is no new music. You know, like, I love all the old stuff, and they're one of my favourite bands, but if they're going to keep going in this form, I'd like to probably hear some new tunes. But yeah, I thought Axl's voice in the AC/DC stuff, which was only a couple of years ago, he really worked on that and got himself to a point where he was really killing those songs, which would totally shred your voice. But I don't know, I just don't hear that with the Guns stuff that I've heard online and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure what the deal is. But yeah, that turned me off going this time around.
Gotcha. And but the time before that, the one that you and Brett saw them, his voice was it was there, you know. It wasn't a concern in that sense, or.
No, it was there.
It was there. Okay. Yeah.
It was.
So it's more of a recent thing then, eh?
Well, it wasn't there like it was in the Illusion era.
No.
But I think just the general excitement of, they're back together, Slash and Duff are back, and it didn't matter. Like, it just...
But I mean, when you do a live outdoor gig, it's different than, you know, recording. You just got to pitch your voice, and you're talking, and you're letting the audio do the work for you. So, but I thought Axl, last time I saw him, 2017 or whatever it was, MCG. I mean, you could tell there was a difference. Yeah, definitely. But I think he did a mighty fine job.
Yeah.
I really, given his age and how many times he's been around the block, as I said before, he did a great job.
But there's a lot of time that he didn't do anything for a long time, whereas other singers like, you know, James Hetfield and, you know, countless others have basically
kept going
non-stop, you know, and I think Hetfield, just touching on him, like, I think he does an amazing job vocally. His voice has changed, and he's changed his technique since the 80s and even the Black Album. But I think he's probably Axl's age. They're probably a similar age.
Yeah, they would be. Yeah.
Different music, different style, but it's still pushing your voice. And, you know, he's still singing in the original keys.
Yeah.
Could be that maybe Axl just took unfortunately, if you take such a long break, you know, you use it or lose it sort of thing. Maybe he just didn't fully recover, you know?
Yeah, maybe it was too much rest, or, you know, it just didn't keep up in that live scenario. And, you know, I mean, they're not easy shows, you know. Gunners are playing 2.5, 3 hour shows, and all those Illusion shows, you know, that would have taken a toll for sure, because he was really pushing his voice. But I think he also took care of himself too, I think so.
With the Jack Daniels and
yeah. Well, I think that's partly why he stayed away from the rest of the band, because, you know, they're all just drunk all the time, and I think Axl kept himself pretty fit, at least in the Illusion days, I think, from what So yeah, it's quite a tale. The Guns N' Roses tale. It's very, very interesting, and that was one of my biggest inspirations growing up. Slash, playing guitar and just watching the music videos and all those gigs. So it's cool that they're still playing, but I think maybe they left it a bit too long, unfortunately.
To get back together, yeah. I mean, it's good when they actually came out. They came out at such a good time, where filling a big gap with what was going on too. Yeah,
I think they were different. They were different than the other bands of the same time, where you had Skid Row and Bon Jovi. Gunners were that LA hard edge, almost like
dirty glam.
Dirty, and they were sloppy. Guns N' Roses were sloppy. Yeah. And even on their Appetite for Destruction, some of those songs are a bit sloppy, but that's rock and roll, and that's what we love about. That's what I loved about them. They were sloppy, they were in your face, and they were like, "Fuck you," and that was like, that's rock and roll.
Yeah, essence, attitude.
And if you could get your head around that and where they were coming from, geez, they're a great band. I mean, sometimes I jump in the car and think, rightio, welcome to the jungles on the spot going on, and you pump that up, and it's like, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a hell of a debut album. Did you guys? When did you get into Guns, Adrian? You must have been there from the early Appetite days, if you saw them.
Yes, from pretty much in Melbourne, at the old shop Metal for Melbourne in downtown. They had a copy of the original artwork, and I remember and then getting the original album there. So that would have been just as they sort of broke, really, because that album was a sleeper for about a year and a half, and then all of a sudden it just took off. After there's quite a good story behind it. It's something to do with MTV they played it late at night. It'd be good. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling on that one, but it'd be worth looking into that. It's actually pretty interesting. Basically, they just said play it, and then, or we'll play it and we'll stop bothering you to play it, and they played it, and then it just overnight took off on like Headbangers Ball or something like that. Anyway, probably I should have found out a bit more key facts on that before I started crapping on.
No, that sounds familiar. I think because the album didn't take off straight away, like you said, and I think didn't they tour with Aerosmith? Like they supported Aerosmith, and they started to outperform Aerosmith on that tour as a support act. Yeah, and because the album still wasn't moving at that stage, I think. Well, not much anyway. And
MTV helps, as Adrian said. Yeah.
Headbangers Ball, man, I'd love to have something like that to watch these days. It's still good watching those old Headbangers Balls. Man. I think actually Ricky Rackman is coming to Melbourne pretty soon. I think. Yeah. The dude from Headbangers Ball. He's still around. Yeah. We should go. I actually forgot about that. Someone sent me the link to, I think it's like a speaking tour, and he's just talking about all those old days, and I think it'd be pretty cool to go to. So I'll see if I can find the event and send it to you guys if you're interested. But what about you, Brett? When did you get into Guns?
Like Adrian, very early. But I think it was the MTV thing. So it must have aired on MTV Australia, and I just instantly thought, wow, this is great. Who are these blokes? I remember I went out and bought a cassette tape and just played the hell out of it in my car. And Adrian was talking about that first concert at the Entertainment Centre that I didn't get to go to. I was in, shattered,
It sold out quick from memory, dude. I think I do remember. Bam, gone.
Yeah, it was.
Lucky.
You're right. Yep. But when they were coming back the next time to Calder, there's no way I was missing that. And then it looked like I was going to miss it, and my housemate said, "Hey, I've got a ticket. Give it to me." I'm not missing it again. And I'm glad I went.
I was going to ask you, like, with the tickets for the Calder show, because were people lining up for tickets as well? So maybe you could pre-buy tickets but you could also line up at the gate to get in. Do you remember that?
I don't remember
What the deal was?
My memory was everyone that was going there had tickets.
Right.
I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, while we're on that, can I give a special mention to? I remember leaving the concert, and totally on cloud nine on it, and I remember walking through back to the car, and there was a band on the outside of the arena, so outside the gates, and they had a small stage set up, and people were just walking in droves past them and heading to their cars, not giving them much attention. And the stage from where people were walking was like, I don't know, nearly 30, 40 metres. Do you remember this, Adrian?
No, I remember there's a band playing that as soon as you said that, I went, yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember.
On the way out when we left, there was a band playing as we were walking through back to our cars, and they were outside the venue. And it was a band called Horsehead, a Melbourne band. And I stopped and listened to them, and I thought, these guys are great. Why didn't they have them on in the main arena? And I felt so sorry for them because, you can imagine the phone call coming through to Horsehead. Hey, guys, we've got a gig at Calder Park on the Guns N' Roses concert. And they rock up and they go, there's your stage. And they'd be like, what the... I felt really bad for them, but they went on to do good things in Australia. They were a good band, and I'm not sure if they're together anymore, but yeah. But
cool.
Yeah, I felt sorry for them, but now I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, that concert, I'm glad I went, and I feel privileged to have been part of it. And does anyone know the stats? How many people went that day? Because
I thought it was like 76,000 because I remember the next day in The Age there was a big a front page article on it saying people were stranded. There was no buses, no shuttle buses. And I seem to think they said 76,000.
Yep.
It looked like an MCG crowd in the size of half the size of the MCG. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw 70 around the 70 mark. And then the one in 2017 that we went to, Brett, I think was at the MCG, and I think we hit like 85,000.
Oh, was it?
Or maybe even 90. I can't remember now. Like it was a lot. It was huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's awesome. Thank you for both sharing your experiences. That was really cool to hear. And I think it was one of those once in a lifetime sort of gigs and experiences and events, and if you were lucky enough to be there like you two were, then it's a good story to tell. So thank you both for sharing your stories. As we say goodbye, maybe you can, if you had a favourite song from that night, and if you could let me know what your favourite Guns album is. Adrian, what would you say if you remember a favourite song from the show and your favourite Guns album?
Geez, well, Appetite's the favourite. I couldn't. It's been so long, man. I don't remember a song that stood out in particular. Sorry, I couldn't. I was completely sober that day, but not since, of course, and that's probably what's affected my memory.
Did they finish with Paradise City? Did they finish with Paradise City?
I think they
Brett's got a better memory of that than me.
Well,
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Usually did, yeah. What about you, Brett? Do you remember any song, or it was probably just one massive awesome experience?
Appetite's my favourite album because that was a big one. But you can't. For me personally, Welcome to the Jungle.
Yep.
That just epitomises Axl's voice and the whole Guns N' Roses attitude in your face. Welcome to the Jungle.
The video, even the song structure, I think, if you look at the song structure, is quite, I don't know, I wouldn't, maybe not obscure, but it's a little not quite conventional. I don't know,
Yeah, you're right, it's not conventional. And it's that opening riff, it's not conventional, no.
You got so many different parts in that song. Is probably what I'm trying to say. Lots of breakdowns, solos, intros, quiet, loud parts. It's quite a fucking
heaps of overdubbing with the guitars coming in and coming out, and vocally Axl's voice. I mean, it just covers all bases in that song for me. Really good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, Brett, for coming on.
Pleasure, man.
Really appreciate you sharing your stories.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have been there, but I was only 10, so but that's all right. It's cool to talk about it anyway. So, yeah, thank you both for coming on, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed Brett and Adrian's stories. Go and check out, news articles about this show, and check out the 100-page Ombudsman report. I think they changed quite a few. Yeah, they changed a lot of regulations for concerts after this show, I think, from what I understand. So
It's good being a guinea pig.
yeah, exactly. Well, you both survived to tell the tale, so
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, thanks for having us on Foxx on the Wire, man.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome show. I love it, Craig.
absolutely. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Catch you again for another episode of Foxx on the Wire.
Awesome.
Cheers.
See you next time.